What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be looking at how to find any lead list in under 10 minutes using Apollo. Now, every cold email campaign lives or dies on the quality of the list. You can have perfect copy, a compelling offer, and a fully warmed up infrastructure and still get zero replies if the list is wrong. Apollo is the most comprehensive B2B contact database available for the price, which we'll come back to in a minute. We don't pay full price on the channel because we're smart. And with the filtering that lets you get extremely specific about who exactly ends up on the list. Now, this doc covers how to use Apollo to find any lead list in under 10 minutes, the filters that matter the most, how to avoid common mistakes, and how to get the lead list into Clay ready for verification and enrichment. If you're new here, my name is Dominic Schwantes. I'm the founder of Workflows, a B2B AI lead generation agency. I document everything I do in real time, the campaigns, the systems, and the results. What you'll find in this document is based on what actually works, not just some theory. So, why Apollo and Boomerang? Apollo has a database large enough to cover most B2B niches at serious volume, and the filtering is detailed enough to get genuinely specific. But paying for Apollo exports directly is expensive at scale. Now, the smarter approach is to use Apollo's free search interface to build and refine your filter criteria, then use Boomerang to scrape the resulting list at a fraction of the cost. Now, Apollo becomes the targeting tool, and Boomerang becomes the extraction tool. You get the same quality list without paying for Apollo's export pricing. And Boomerang integrates directly with Apollo search results and exports the contacts as a CSV, ready to drop straight into Clay. So I've attached some screenshots here for you all to look at, which shows Apollo's pricing versus Boomerang's pricing and how to actually apply those URLs into Boomerang to get those lead lists. So Apollo starts with a free tier, which only gets you 100 credits, which is basically nothing. Then the next plan up is $60 a month for 2,500 credits, which is not much. Now, if you compare that to Boomerang's pricing, it's $3 per 1,000 leads, which is much more affordable. So if you think about how many leads you can get for $60, literally 20,000 instead of 2,500 credits. Crazy the difference. Now, when you log into Boomerang and you create an account, by the way, I'm not affiliated by Boomerang, just a disclaimer. Now, once you go into Boomerang and you click on the Export Apollo section, you'll paste the URL like so in the box. You'll just write the name for the file that you want, select how many leads you need, leave don't verify as on because we'll verify once we export the list into Clay, and leave Apollo verified emails on. And then just click get my leads and you should get them within 24 hours max. Much more cost effective way. Now let's have a look at some of the Apollo filters. So Apollo has two main search modes, people search and company search. People search for filters based on individual contact attributes such as job title, seniority, location, industry, company size, and contact data available. This is the primary mode for building cold email lists. Now, the company search filters by organizational attributes such as industry, employee count, revenue range, location, technologies used, and hiring activity. The most efficient workflow is set to the company level filters first within people search, and then layer the contact level filters on top of that. Now, once the filters are set and the result looks right to you, Boomerang takes over. Rather than exporting from Apollo directly, you run Boomerang against the filtered results, and it scrapes the contacts into a CSV for a much lower cost per lead. Now, just to remind you all of what the filters look like in Apollo, I've attached a screenshot of the people and the company one. Now, these are the main ones you need to look at. Employee range for both of them. I can't draw today. Employee range. Now, it says 2 here because I've usually selected 1 to 11 and 1 to 10 and 11 to 20. Usually, ideally, though, you want 3 to 15. Anywhere in there is more than sufficient for getting started. Now, email status, you always want to leave as verified. And the job titles will be CEO, founder, Chief Executive Officer, if it spells it out, and any other sorts of those variants. Now, location, I go with USA, but you can go Australia or UK or anywhere else where you are. And the industry, this is for staffing and recruitment. So that's what I've selected as my industry. Now, for companies, it's going to be far less common, but the ones you want to focus on, again, are the industry, employee count, and account location. And the buying intent, maybe, if you want. That's really it. Now, let's have a look at some of the filters more specifically. So the job title is the most important filter. The job title determines who reads your email and whether they can say yes or no. Now, for an AI automation agency targeting trades businesses, the right titles are business owner, managing director, or operations manager. For cold email targeting small to medium-sized businesses, such as founder, CEO, and director are the ones you want to focus on. Now, Apollo allows multiple title variations simultaneously. Entering owner, founder, director, CEO, managing director returns all contacts matching any of those titles. Now, be specific, but not too narrow. Searching for only CEO misses founders who use a different title and any of the other variations. Searching for manager returns results that are too broad, so you got to get the right balance. Now, for the industry, Apollo uses a hierarchical industry classification system. The top results category or the top level categories are broad, but drilling into subcategories produces more targeted results. So for trades businesses, subcategories under construction, real estate, and facility services. And for professional services, it would be legal services, accounting, and financial services. Now select the most specific subcategory that covers the target niche that you're going after. And if they're too narrow, you can move up one level and adjust and add the adjacent subcategories. Now, if they are more broad, such as accounting and financial services, when we get into Clay, we can further classify and make sure that they meet the exact ICP that we're looking for. Now, for the employee count is the proxy for the company size. One of the most important filters for avoiding companies that are too small to have the problem or too large to make a quick decision. Now, for AI automation targeting small to medium-sized businesses and professional services, the sweet spot is 1 to 200. Now, realistically, you should be targeting 1 to 20 if you're starting out. It's probably a typo by me. Now, if you're going for anything over 100, you better have a lot of case studies and be able to take performance-based initiatives, because these companies will have a lot of procurement and a large sales cycle. Now, if they are under 10, they'll often be too small and they'll have a limited budget and limited process complexity. Over 1 to 200 introduces committee buying dynamics and longer sales cycles, like those big B2B SaaS companies, those government agencies, etc. So for the location filtering works at the country, state, city, and postal code levels. Now, for Australian campaigns, filter to Australia and then add specific states or cities. This also avoids the time zone mismatch problem. Now, for US campaigns, filtering to specific states or metro areas is often more effective than targeting the whole country, especially when testing out an offer. Technologies used. Apollo shows you which software tools a company uses based on their public signals, like what they post on LinkedIn or what's on their website. Now, for an AI automation agency, filtering companies using Xero, Airflow, and JobNimbus, or any other field service management and accounting tools identifies businesses with software infrastructure automation that can be connected to. Now, a landscaping company that uses Airflow is a more qualified prospect for Airflow connected automation than one with no detectable software stack at all. And lastly, for hiring activity, Apollo shows which companies have posted job listings recently and allows filtering by role type. So again, this is pulling from places like LinkedIn, like their website, if they are hiring. Now, a company posting for an operations coordinator or an office admin in a trades business is signaling a scaling operations problem, and that signal is directly relevant to an AI automation pitch. These are warmer prospects that companies with no visible growth signal. Now, let's have a look at building the search step by step. Now, each sequence for targeting landscaping businesses in Australia should look something like this. Now, open Apollo, obviously, navigate to people search, set the industry to construction and facility services, and add landscaping services as a subcategory. I would recommend going 1 to 200, particularly for those of you starting out. If you do have an established ground of case studies, you can afford to go 50 to 100 plus. Now set the location to 100 and add specific states if needed, and then set the job title to owner, founder, CEO, managing director, and the likes, and then enable contact data to filter to only show contacts with a verified or likely valid email address. Review the result count and add filters to narrow if too large and loosen if they're too small. Now check a sample of 20 to 30 of those results manually, confirm the titles, the company sizes, and the industries match, and then once they look good, activate Boomerang to scrape that list, and then Boomerang runs against the Apollo search results and export those contacts as a CSV at a fraction of the cost. And download the Boomerang CSV and check it opens correctly, and then just upload it into Clay. One other quick thing to mention before we go on. If they are too small, you need to have a large enough sample size to actually go off of. So if the filters that you have are only showing 500 to a couple thousand people, it's probably too narrow. So you're going to have to go more broadly and then filter in Clay. You should have at least 4,000 to 7,000 contacts if you are scraping a serious niche. Because if they're 3,000, you just don't have enough. Think about it. If you're sending 1,000 emails per day, you've literally burned through that list in under a week. You need way more than that. So try and go for a pool of at least 10 to 20,000, and that way you can then begin to filter and define your ICP in Clay more closely. Now, how many contacts to scrape is the next good question. Now, the number is depending on the campaign target volume and the estimated verification pass rate. For a campaign targeting 500 verified contacts, assume 70 to 80% will pass zero bounces valid. So scrape 600 to 700 from Apollo via Boomerang, and to end up with approximately 500 after verification. For niche markets where data tends to be older, the pass rate may be lower, just to keep in mind. Run a small test scrape of 100 through zero bounce first to gauge the rate. Now, my recommendation to you would be to scrape a minimum of 3,000 to start out with. But if you are being conservative with money, just know that you can start with 500. Now, some common mistakes when building Apollo lists. Exporting without reviewing the results. Make sure you check a sample in Apollo before running to Boomerang to catch mismatches early. Now, the targeting is too broad is another problem. 5 lists of 500 categories, each targeting a specific niche with tailored copy, beats one list of 2,500 with generic copy. The next issue is ignoring the employee count filter. Contacts from 1 to 5 employee companies are typically sole traders with no budget, so it's very important that you set a minimum. Now, not enabling email data filter is the other problem. So Apollo shows contacts whether or not it has email data. Enable that filter before running to Boomerang, or you get rows with no email addresses. So once a CSV is exported from Boomerang, upload it to Clay for enrichment. The Boomerang CSV, make sure it maps directly into the Clay's import field, so you will have to match first name and last name, job title, LinkedIn, email, etc. And then once you have uploaded that, run the workflow that we've spoken about on the channel before. And within 20 minutes, the list is verified, enriched, and personalized, ready for Smart Lead. The whole process from opening Apollo to having a campaign ready takes under an hour, under 30 minutes for a familiar niche with the saved search template. So let's just speak briefly about this guy here. So the 3 columns you mainly need in Clay are 0 bounce for actually confirming that the emails are valid. So this is your double checking for emails. Now you can use Mailtest and Ninja as well, but you probably want to save money on the Clay plan. Can't draw straight. So do not use that, because otherwise you'll have to upgrade to like the 2nd or 3rd highest plan, and that's easily $300 to $400 a month. And the next one you're going to need is a job clean or a company name cleaner. Company name cleaner. So what that does is that just removes anything like LTD, LLC, some of those endings that make it look like you've just copied that into a template. And the third one is a likelihood score that they will actually get back to you. So if you go back to one of the earlier videos we've gone over in Clay, you can set up an OpenAI ChatGPT column using 5 Mini. It's very cheap, and you can just go through and link to the columns, such as this one and your LinkedIn column, and that will basically tell you the probability of them fitting your ICP based on the prompt that you give it. So my tip to you is to get AI to actually create the prompt, because it knows how to prompt engineer better than you do. So we'll put a likelihood calculator, and that just gives you a good understanding about where in the scale that it sits. Now, if it sits below a certain score, you can just remove it, because it's probably not likely to convert for you. So what all this means for you: the quality of the lead list is the quality of the campaign. Every other variable is working with whatever the list gives. Now spend the time getting the filters right before scraping. Double check the sample, adjust the parameters, and use Boomerang to extract the list at a fraction of the cost of Apollo's native export. Everything downstream gets easier when the list is right. And once you've done it once, it is half the time to do it the next time. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any new videos on the channel. If you have any videos you'd like me to cover in the future, make sure you leave them in the description below, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.